Hey, Dave. Tell her. Dave, I'll let you take a seat over here, and you guys can gather around. Here you go. We have some special guests this morning, and actually, as of this time yesterday, you didn't know you were going to be here, and nor did I, but the Lord has worked that all out. And so this is David Garrett. He's with 1-7 out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Maybe you should start about your little journey here this weekend and walking by faith and how you ended up here.
Good morning. I'll probably brag on your church and your pastor and what God is doing here. Like we obviously haven't showered. We had no idea we were going to be doing this. So last spring we had a schedule and we had a plan, and we made the plan to be here this weekend. And since the spring, we've gone through a lot of hardship. And so I guess we're under attack, and financially it's been really hard where we are. And there was every reason in the world to cancel this weekend. It just didn't make sense. There was no money. There was no way to do it. But we were still supposed to be at Milligan College and supposed to be at East Tennessee State today. And I knew that God had a purpose and a plan. And so I went back and forth in my mind thinking, we have nowhere to stay, we have no food to eat, we have no money to take. And I personally, usually I'll go into my own, and I didn't have anything either. But all through the past, like these kids have grown up in this ministry, and all through the past, 10 years, we've just gone. Like whether it was Chicago, New York, and they've seen that. And so I was thinking, like, why is this any different? Like, let's just get in the vans, take up what money that the kids bring, and let's just drive. And so we had no plan B. There was no anything. And so we didn't know where we were going to eat dinner last night. We took up the money from the kids, and that got us gas in the vans. And we ate McDonald's dollar menu. And then we go to Milligan and we play the first game. And during halftime of the game, my phone's about to die, and a family from Johnson City calls out of the blue, do you guys have plans for dinner? And so halftime, I'm trying to coach, and my phone's dying, and I'm like, we would absolutely love to have dinner tonight. And it was just because we weren't going to, I don't have an answer for it. And so I was assured that we were going to eat dinner, and then we played the game, and the coach at Milligan says, would you guys like to come in and pray with us? And we said, well, is it okay if we share the gospel with you? Because our kids, our leaders, don't want to just circle up and pray. We want to talk about what has happened in our lives. We want to talk about the most important thing in our lives, which is Jesus. And so we shared with them, and after we shared, a player, his son, comes walking up and is like, do you guys have a place to stay tonight? I have no idea why he asked me that question. And I have no idea where we were going to sleep. Honestly. Everyone that's living this is like, we didn't bring blankets, we didn't bring pillows, we didn't have any plan. We just sort of went. And we said, yes, we would love to have a place to stay. And so you guys, God working through, his heart. Nobody does that, because we travel all over the United States with nothing. And we're poor. And we see how everyone treats everyone. And we're fine. Like I told Tim, who was here last night, we're prepared to sleep in the van, and we're happy. Like the things that we've been through, the things that we experience on a daily basis in Charlotte, like we expect nothing, and we're happy with anything. And so if it meant that we slept outside or we slept in the van, we were going to be happy with it. We really don't care. But the fact that his heart, God spoke through him, and he invited us into your all's home, that's a huge blessing, because that doesn't happen. People don't just invite you in when they don't know you. And so that led to conversations with an incredible group of young people that clean the church at night. And then we sat and talked to Tim, and then we were able to share with each other last night, share our lives together until like 1 a.m. And then I was sitting there with this guy last night. We're talking about until like 1:30, and we're like, you just take opportunities. Like, you just go and you walk into life and you take opportunities, and whatever opportunities come, use them for the glory of God. And so we wake up and here's another opportunity. We have a game to go to East Tennessee State Stadium and play. We haven't showered. We have every reason to be embarrassed and, not want to be here. But this is an opportunity to do life. And when we look at you, we see another picture of God that we would never know without knowing you. And so I had no idea about this church. I grew up in Kingsport, had no idea. I've never been here. And but I just want to thank you for being sensitive to God's Spirit. And to us, this is everything. Like you gave us the place to lay our head last night. And that's beautiful to me, and that strengthens my faith. And it makes me stronger, and it makes me want to go harder for the kingdom of God. So I just want to thank you guys.
Well, we're glad to have you. Why don't you take a little time to tell us about 1-7? What is the nature of your ministry there in Charlotte?
Jeremiah 4-8. I don't know, like everybody asks me, where did 1-7 come from? It's really when God is speaking to Jeremiah, and Jeremiah was a young person. And growing up in Kingsport, my dad was Judge Garrett. You guys, some of you may have known him. I got lost and went down a terrible path. And when God had saved me when I was at East Tennessee State, and then I got my life turned around, I kept asking questions. Why? Why did it happen? Where did I go wrong? What was missing? And then all of the kids that I tried to hurt when I sold drugs and I did what I did, like, I wanted to know why, what are we missing? Like, what are young people missing? And so I searched my heart and I asked God, and when God was talking to Jeremiah, he said, before you were ever formed in your mother's womb, I knew you. And I started thinking about that. And he said, before you were born, I set you apart to be my voice to the world, to be my prophet to the nations. And I started thinking about my own journey and the journey of all these kids, that before you were ever formed, I knew you. Before you were smart, before you were skinny, before you were beautiful, whatever the world's going to call me. Before I was anything, he knew me and he loved me. And I felt like that was the foundation of where I went wrong, is that I didn't know why I was here. And so I was lost in why I was here. And so I just started searching for the reason, the answer to fill what I knew that was missing in my life. And so when I go into the inner city, which is where we are, you see gangs and you see drugs and you see pregnancies and you see crime and you see sexual abuse and you see every kind of evil that you can imagine. And we try to go in and say, there's a reason you're here. You don't just need to check out because everyone said you're poor, everyone says you're uneducated, everyone says you're an immigrant, everyone says you're a refugee, you've been sexually abused. Like, there is a reason, you just got to find it. And so understanding that they were all known by God, just like I was, just like you were. You were known by God before you could measure up to anybody's standard, and that he loved you, and he cared for you, and he cared for us, and he set us apart to do something great. And so I try to find kids that want to find their purpose and then lead them into that. And so really, Jeremiah answered back and he said two things. I'm scared, like I'm too young and I don't know how to speak. And that's the fear that is in most of our lives. Even coming up here this morning, I speak all the time, but I'm scared to speak because I haven't showered. And I'm embarrassed, like, what are they looking at? Like, what are they saying? Do they not like my tattoos? Am I fat? Have I gained weight? I'm 1,000 little things. And God said, go to everyone I send you and say whatever I command you to say, and I will rescue you. And then he reached out his hand and he touched his mouth. And like, that is so intimate to me, that I was that boy at 23 years old, sitting in an apartment at East Tennessee State with my life gone. And I felt like that he reached out and he touched me. And he changed me and he gave me a purpose and a reason that I was here. And so that's 1-7, is that we went into the hardest place in Charlotte, the dirtiest, most vile place, and I said, God, I want to see the impossible. I want to do the impossible. And that's driving in here yesterday. Like I want to see God move. And so I don't know, like,
Well, I know that you have a facility there in Charlotte, and about how many young people come and are a part of your ministry there?
we have a private school for girls and boys. We just added 5 boys. And we have an apartment complex that we bought, and it houses a little bit of everything. People that are needing to be rescued. We own a house that we just bought that has boys that in the past it's been homeless boys or boys' parents have been killed, kids that are living on the street. We have from 6 years old up to 17 years old living in there. And so we have a little bit of everything, but it's a huge family. Like there's probably 150 to 200 kids that will come to 1-7 that we call everybody a leader. We don't really call them kids. Like if you're 3 or 4 years old, you're expected to lead. And we're all treated equally. So you can have, I think the 7-year-old is the youngest on this trip. And then you can have this guy who's going to Liberty University in the fall on a scholarship to play soccer there. And so we walk together. And so the 6-year-old is expected to lead with the 18-year-old. And so we love each other. We are a family. We walk together. We serve together. We move as one team. And within the core group of kids, youth leaders, I guess we would call, there's probably 60 to 70. And then an outer circle that goes up to 200 of kids that mobilize and meet. You know, it's like a church.
And you have, what, 20 or 30 of your folks with you today? You guys, you want to stand if you're a part of 1-7, just so people recognize you're around and they might want to chat with you later? Did one of the young folks want to share how the Lord has used 1-7 in their lives?
Yeah, we'll let the girls first. These 2 girls live with us. They live with me, and they came out of a really, I don't know what they'll share, but I don't know, try to follow his lead about not just talking and talking. And
Well, just tell us how 1-7 has impacted your life. Hold that close.
Well, they so nervous.
Well, when
about your family, about how we met, your family, where you came from. The hardest part, the things that are hardest for you to talk about.
My family got divorced. It was really hard for me, and so my dad, he does drugs and like all this stuff, and so like
did you find a family to essentially replace your family when you came to 1-7? Or to be your family? Well, is through 1-7 where you first encountered Christ, or did someone else mention Christ to you prior to that point?
1-7.
So 1-7 has opened you up to the reality of knowing Christ. And has he become real in your life?
Yes. I was struggling, and I used to cut myself and like never listen to my parents. And one time, David helped me how to lead, and it was hard for me to like knowing God, because I used to be a Catholic, and so
has 1-7 made a big impact in changing your life in a good way?
yes.
We thank you for sharing. How old are you?
I'm 14.
14. Thank you.
So she has an amazing story, but when you're talking about things that have really destroyed you. Her mom left the family and walked out on the dad, and there was a lot of rape and molestation with all the siblings. And because the dad was living with other men that just came into the apartment, and there was a lot of guys getting drunk and just doing drugs, and there was 4, 5 girls at the time that were little. And so they were just exposed to a lot of bad things. And so we met the dad and we sat down with him and said, I've either got to report you or you've got to let us help you. That we have to protect the girls. And so we walked in and intervened. And that was how many years ago? Remember? 4, 5 years ago. And the men went to prison that did the bad things. But we have been able to bring all the siblings. So Annette, Ingrid, Shayla, and Arlette are all here today, the 2 little ones. Y'all want to stand up, your sisters? Arlette, Shayla, stand up on the chair. Y'all want to stand up? There's Arlette, there's Shayla. Where's Annette? Oh, Annette's in the bathroom.
Would one of the others like to share?
So I want to start off with when I was 14. From the time I was 14 up until I was 19, my life went down a really dark path. I searched for happiness in the wrong places. I knew something was missing in my life, but I didn't know it was Christ. And so I searched for fulfillment in marijuana and in sex. And so going after those things left me feeling more brokenhearted, and I felt more empty than ever. I thought those things would satisfy me, and they brought pleasure in the moment, but after, I felt more guilty and more broken than ever. And so I came to 1-7 about 2 to 3 years ago, when I came to play soccer, but seeing what God is doing in this ministry, I realized that God is real, and seeing miracles like what we saw last night, like He is faithful and He always provides. And so seeing that in other trips, I realized that He is real, and knowing that Jesus gave up His life for us on the cross, that made me want to put sin to the side. And just like he said earlier, that He set us apart and He has a plan for us. And so now I'm in search of that plan for my life, because I know He made all of us for something great, other than just He didn't make us to pursue things of this world. Like, those things will only destroy us. And so this ministry helped me find Jesus, and now it has changed my life.
Was there anything else you would like to share about 1-7?
Hello, my name is Anam, and I'm 15. I'm originally from Iraq. My journey started back in 2007. My family, we were financially struggling, so we moved to Syria. And 2 years later, we were asked if we wanted to come here, so we came here as refugees. 2009. My family, we stayed in the United States for about 2.5 years, and then we went back to Syria again. And it was very hard because that's when the civil war started in Syria. So I was only like 9 or 10. So later on, God provided another way for us to get back here, and at that time it was only me and my brother Noah and my dad. So we came back here, and so we left Noah here, and my dad took me back to Syria. So later on, my dad was like, you're gonna have to stay with your mom. So it was very hard for me. Like, I had to take care of my mom, and later on, my whole family came back to the United States in 2012, and that's how I met 1-7. My brother's story, it's very different than mine. how he was found. He was eventually abandoned, and he was left in a car. And then 3 days later, David found him, and he wanted to bring him in and take care of him as his own son until he finds out what his situation was. So that's how I got attached to 1-7. I was like, I'm just gonna be there for school, and whatever happens happens. So later on, my dad was like, you guys can't be staying there anymore because it's a Christian organization, and my family they're Muslim. And so my mom allowed me to go to the academy, but before that she was very abusive, and she would you know be very angry at the world. So she would like get all of her anger out on me and my siblings. And so David eventually took me in, and I started living with him. And little by little, like all these miracles would happen, but I was blind and I didn't see them. And so I thought it was, I'm not going to, be converted to Christianity because it's all fake. And so later on, my mom was like, I don't want you to live with me anymore. You can move out. And so I didn't have anywhere to stay, and it was very hard. So I started going to the academy, and that's when my life changed completely. My dad left, and he took my family to Michigan. So it was only me and my brother here. And so later on in my life, there was something that was calling me, but I didn't know what it was. So I would just ignore it. And then my brother, there was a couple of times where he just wanted to leave, but I knew that God was calling me for something. And so I opened up my heart, and he just completely changed me, and I'm so thankful for what he has done in my life. So later on, my dad came back, and he tried to take us away. We had just gotten baptized in May of 2014, and so he was like, "You guys are coming with me," but we had to stand up for what we believe in. We told him, "We love you and we love Mom, but we can't come with you. We have a calling, and we're gonna stay here, and we're gonna follow Jesus, and because he's our Savior, and he died for us." And so ever since that, my dad and my mom, they completely turned against me, and they just are like, "You're not my daughter, and you're not my son anymore." And so little by little, like, I've been praying for them, and it's been 2.5 years, but like I was telling God, nothing, I don't see any changes. But he told me, just because you don't see any changes doesn't mean they're not happening. And so, I'm going to continue to pray for them, and I'm going to continue to live my life out for him. And thank you for letting us be here today. That's all.
My name is Shalom, and I was born in West Africa, Togo, which is one of the smallest and poorest countries in Africa. And so when I was living there, we didn't have anything. And so in my country, there's like a lottery. And the lottery here in America is that you get to win money. But the lottery in my country is that you get a visa and you get to come to America. And so all my life, I thought that that was luck, that we just got picked. But throughout everything that's happened, I found out that God had a plan and a purpose for me. A month before we were about to come to America, my father passed away. And it was really close because we were just about to leave. And so it left a hole in my heart that I never thought that could be filled. I tried to put soccer in there, and it didn't work. I tried to put things that were of this world in there, and it still didn't work. And so I was very lost when I was in America. I didn't know any English, and so it was hard for me. And I remember I used to go out with my friends, and we used to just go and steal and do a lot of things that we just didn't know what we were doing, but we had nothing else to do. And at the time, I had no faith at all. And I was just living life, and I always blamed God for everything, and I always ran away from him. And I remember one time I decided to go to my school and try out for our school team. And I met David there. He was a coach at our school, and he invited me to 1-7. At the time, I was very skinny, and I was a little bit good at soccer, but I wasn't that great. And David told me just to come to 1-7. It was a ministry, and when he told me it was a ministry, I didn't want to come, and so I went home and I continued to live my life, and I was just going through the motions, not caring about what my future was, and I was just heading downhill because I felt that no one ever cared for us. It was just me, my mom, my brother, my sister, and my paralyzed uncle in a 2-bedroom apartment, and we could barely even pay the rent. And so I thought this world was cruel, and I wasn't going to be a part of it. And my brother ended up tricking me to go to 1-7. He told me that they were going to give me free cleats. Um, and so I went there, and I still believed that I just wanted to play soccer. And I remember we went to this church called Elevation, and there was a soccer player before me, and his name was Tresor, and they were doing an event like this, and they were giving Tresor an All-American award and all these great things. And I remember I was one of the kids in the crowds, and I just went into the bathroom, and I started to cry. And I kept on crying, and I kept on telling God not to forget me and not to just leave me or forsake me. And at the time, it was just really hard, and I didn't have faith in anything. And I got baptized before with my mom, my brother, my sister, but I never really knew who Christ was, and I never followed him. And I was wondering why my life was going downhill. And so after that, I think that night was the night that I actually gave my life to Christ, when I started to live for him. And after that, everything changed for me. It was hard, but everything was just different. I wasn't living for myself. I was living for something greater than myself, and I was given a purpose. And a year after that, through God, I got the chance to go to tryouts and things, and I got a full ride to go to Liberty University to play soccer. And I knew that that wasn't me, that it wasn't by myself that I did that. It was through Christ that everything was made for me. And I just want to tell you guys that when everything is going down and you feel like your life is worthless, that when you're at your lowest point is when God wants to show that he's the highest and bring you up and show you to the world. And so that's what I've learned, and just to be faithful to him throughout all times.
Well, we want to thank you for being here this morning. It really is an honor to host you, and thank all of you for sharing. And have you had breakfast yet?
Last night, the young people cleaning the church, we didn't ask for that, but they gave us $300. And like seeing the faith of those young people, like I think some of them are in college, some of them are in high school, and $300, like, I mean, that's everything. I know that's a huge sacrifice because I don't have $300. And like somebody had given us a bag of oranges and a bag of apples, and we had taken those, and that was going to be breakfast. And then after like 12 midnight, God provided, they gave their money. And that's what, like, I don't even know your church, but that's just thing after thing after thing that's coming out of this church. And
I don't know if you heard the first thing he said, but the young people who were here cleaning the place last night after the service are the ones who gave him $300.
yeah.
So,
So we're provided for. Like, that'll get us, I think that $300 will get us home. And like, it's just a beautiful thing what God's doing here. And we didn't even know about you guys yesterday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And so just be encouraged that whatever you're doing, you're allowing God to use you. And we love you guys. Consider you part of our family, and we thank you.
now you have to be at ETSU at noon. All right, so you're going to leave here at 11.
Well,
You
we
have to
gotta
be there at 11.
11, yeah.
Okay, so you're going to leave here about 10:30. The service will be over here, who knows when. I'm looking for the right person. Jonna, you're the volunteer. You mind volunteering? Just come right here so people can see you, everybody who doesn't know Jonna. Here's what we're going to do. When the service is over, if you want to give money to support this ministry, you find Jonna. And she'll take it. By the way, she's a graduate of Liberty University.
All right.
So, amen. So anyway, find Jonna. She'll be right over here after the service. They'll take up money for you. They'll provide for you for food today and gas money home and who knows what else. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you, guys.